It has been a long year and now we finally have some time to drink some mild wine, eat some fruitcake, and come to a conclusion on what I actually like in 2024. As usual, there are a lot of great releases this year and I'm here to share with you some of my absolute favorites. I'm not going to care about price, I'm just going to talk about which Iems that I actually enjoy in 2024. So starting things off with some notable mentions, they might not come in top of my list, but they are very solid releases nonetheless. And one Iem that is very deserving of this would be the K-Fine Clean. Now the Clean was quite a surprise as it came to the market really strong and I was not expecting that. The Clean sports a simple but effective design featuring a faceplate with 6 sides. I like how it combines sharper edges with the softer lines. It feels very sturdy in hand to the point that if I sit on it, it should really survive. The nozzle is interesting. As mentioned, Clean has interchangeable filters. It's quite different from interchangeable nozzles where the whole nozzle can come off. This is more like you just change the lip of the nozzle where the filter sits. And on the Clean, you get basically 2 options. A silver nozzle, which is the default, and a black one which adds more upper mids, giving you more of an airier experience. The silver is smoother and maintains a classic V shape that is eternally popular. The Clean features a 2-pin termination. The accompanying cable is made from twisted silver-plated copper conductors ending in a 3.5mm termination. The Clean is a traditional V-shaped IEM but with a bit more sub-bass and upper mids, making it a bit more exciting to listen to compared to other IEMs in the same price range. At the heart of it, the sound is delivered by a single 10mm dynamic driver with a diamond-like coat, making it very cohesive sounding with even and natural tonal color throughout the frequency range. So bass. The Clean is a very sub-bass dominant IEM that delivers very deep, punchy bass response. It's easy to feel the groove in the music and it conveys the pulse of the music very well. This isn't one of those IEMs that simply focuses on sub-bass. While the sub-bass is certainly pretty dominant, the mid-bass is still fairly meaty, just not to the same degree. Mid-range. The mid-range changes quite a bit depending on which filters you use, especially when it comes to the quantity of upper mids. That said, tonality remains consistent between the 2 different filters. The Clean does away with the trend of having elevated upper mid-range with the stock silver filter but gives you the option to introduce them back in with the black filters. Vocals have a very natural tonal weight that has a slight warmth to them, making them very nicely weighted rather than bright and thinny. Resolution here is good overall and is in line with the rest of the competition. Treble. The top end of Clean is rendered very well with adequate air for the price range. There is a nice perception of space. Sometimes standard V-shaped tuning can sound a bit dark, but that isn't the case with the Clean. It is overall very nicely balanced, giving an adequate overall presentation. With that out of the way, it's now time to get a little bit more serious with my top 3. And in third place would go to the SimGod EW300. Now the EW300 features a beautiful metal chassis that shares a silhouette with the EW200, but well, the finishing is done way better. The sides are evenly polished, they have a raised section for the nozzle which allows for a much better fit. And the thing with the EW300 is that it has added flair to the products and it looks very different from other Iems that is being offered on the market right now, which usually provide you with some glittery faceplate that Ladyboy wears. So none of that right here. This is however pretty fresh. I'm actually very sick of those swirly whirly faceplate as I mentioned. This is just in a very nice shiny metal that I really like. At the heart of the EW300, you have a 10mm ceramic composite dynamic driver with dual chambers, a 6mm annular planar magnetic driver, and lastly a piezoelectric ceramic driver. Quite a nice mix of drivers, especially in its sub-100 price range category. Next up, sound. The EW300 is very interesting as it is the first company to employ 3 different driver types in an affordable price point. This creates a very interesting tonal color compared to the rest of the competition. SimGod manages to harmonize the use of 3 different driver types to create something that is sonically beautiful that allows the strength of each driver to show through. Bass is handled by the dynamic driver, mids is done by the planar, and treble is handled by the piezoelectric tweeter. So, as you guys know, the trend in 2024 is to offer 1001 nozzles. The EW300 comes with 2 nozzles. So firstly, the silver nozzles enables a V-shaped signature with elevated upper mid-range, while the gold nozzle maintains a more traditional V-shape. On the whole, the EW300 has a sweet, natural, warm character that is paired with good levels of dynamics. Bass. Bass on the EW300 is one where it is a bit more sub-bass for taking up more of the bass presence. They still maintain a meaty rendering of mid-bass, as I found the transition to be quite linear, devoid of any scoop where it just suddenly dies when it comes to mid-bass. It doesn't have that, it's still pretty full sounding. Mid-range, as mentioned, the different nozzles do cause quite a shift in the mid-range perception. Both nozzles work well and maintain the overall tonal color of the EW300. The difference would be that the silver nozzle has a bit more upper mid-range and it's a bit more forward, while the gold nozzle does not have that upper mid-range and it's a bit more laid back. What is cool about the EW300 is that despite me using the silver nozzles for the review, I actually found that it does a great job for male vocals, which is more like in normal mid-range or lower mids, but it does fine. Treble, as rendered by the piezoelectric tweeter, it does a lovely job balancing out the top end with the rest of the frequency range, providing good shape and air to the mid-range and treble. As such, if you're looking for a more affordable option that excels in resolution, I think that EW300 is one that is really easy to recommend. And next up in second place, the 7Hz Timeless 2. Now this is perhaps quite a later model that came out in 2024. I mean, I just did a review like 2-3 weeks ago, but I really enjoyed it for its versatility. I found that it is perhaps the most versatile planar Iem in 2024 as it has a large variety of nozzles that can really shape how sound sounds. With one of the nozzles bringing it much closer to the Let's Show SF 2024 territory. Not exactly the same, but pretty close. The Timeless 2 will be a bit hard to review as the nozzle options available here will render them to sound quite differently. There are basically 4 nozzles here: the Gold Standard, the Silver Standard, the Gold Bullet, and Silver Bullet. Well, standard nozzles are kind of standard nozzles. These are what you see on every other Iem. So we'll start with the Gold Standard nozzle, which is basically the stock nozzle, and what it has is that it has elevated upper mid-range, which allows for greater perception of soundstage. The Silver Standard nozzle, on the other hand, has more subdued upper mid-range presentations compared to the Gold and renders vocals a bit warmer sounding. On the whole, a bit more euphoric. This sounds a bit closer to the S12 2024. Now onto the Gold and Silver Bullet nozzles. Now these nozzles are fundamentally very different from the standard nozzles. You can see how they look. They literally change how the sound is coming out from the earphones. So instead of firing directly into your ears, sound now is coming out from 2 holes by the side of the nozzle. So starting off with the Gold Bullet, it has really similar upper mid-range performance to the Gold Standard, but it does so in a more focused manner, while soundstage is also quite a bit wider. The Silver nozzle, on the other hand, has quite a bit more upper mids, and it shares the same property as the other bullet-shaped nozzle of having a more focused mid-range and a wider soundstage. But because it's a bit focused and it's a bit bright sounding, it can be a bit much. Anyways, moving on to bass of the Timeless 2. Now it has the classic planar characteristic of bass render. It is fast with good focus on sub-bass that transitions really linearly to mid-bass. Dynamics here is also very good and tight. I like the attack of bass render on the Timeless 2. Kick drum sounds very tight and taut. Resolution in the bass region is excellent with a strong focus on fundamental tones, making it very clear and never clouds the mid-range. Mid-range, the tonal weight of mid-range would be natural with a slight kiss of warmth that allows it to be very captivating to listen to. Because of the technical proficiency of bass, it allows for mid-range to sound very spacious and 3D-like with nothing to cloud mid-range intricacies. Vocals here are very even between the male and female vocals, and they both sound equally good. Resolution is extremely high on the mid-range as well. Treble extension is fantastic. It is easily effortless, smooth, yet delivers good energy and edge to the other frequency bands. For me, I found it largely pleasing and really airy. And because of that, clarity is crystal clear here and really allows for a very clear view of all the instruments in the mix. And with that said, now I'm gonna talk about my favorite IEM for 2024. Now this IEM is really quite special as it has a rather unique tuning and isn't really following trends. As such, it sounds very refreshing. And this is the Duno DK3001BD. The DK3001BD from Duno is a tribrid setup with 1 dynamic driver paired with 4 balance armatures and 4 planar drivers. I think this gets asked a lot. There are really different types of planar drivers in the market. Some are like the micro ones that is shaped in a balanced armature, but how it produces sound is fundamentally very different. And there are others like, say, in the timeless 2 where it's one whole big planar. These used here are likened that to the small little balanced armature ones. Anyways, moving on to sound, the best part of the DK3001BD is the sonics. As I enjoy its more unique tuning, it features a neutral tuning with elevated sub-bass. Might I add, this isn't very common in 2024. And also, the thing about neutral tuning is that it is a tuning that is actually very difficult to get right, because you leave yourself with very little room for coloration to make the overall sound interesting. And as such, good technicalities is critical to carry this sort of tuning. And when done right, it will be highlighted. And when done right, it will sound very beautiful without any sort of coloration. It was very smart of Dunu to tweak on the classic neutral tone by having a bit more sub-bass, and this makes it much friendlier for folks who are unfamiliar with such a tuning. Bass. Bass of the DK3001BD is certainly more sub-bass focused. It does not mean that there is a void in mid-bass, but basically it tapers down very quickly, resulting in a clean, high-resolution sound that does not overly warm the overall signature. Sub-bass is quick, dynamic, and has excellent resolution. It is also apparent when the bass drops in songs such as Rosie and Bruno Mars' new song, ABT, providing beautiful rhythmic pulse throughout the music. And when it comes to mid-range, the thing about a neutral tuning is that because it's inherently tuned largely flat, you'll perceive voices to be a bit more forward. This is how humans are wired. We are just more sensitive to mid-range, but as the graph shows, it is just literally pretty flat with just a tiny rise at 3K. Vocals on the DK3001BD has great levels of detail that again oozes resolution. It treats both male and female vocals very evenly, not emphasizing one over the other. Treble performance here is exceptionally spacious sounding. There is very good extension as well. I do find it deliciously adequate. Now these do sound quite different from Iems that have an elevated upper mid-range section, where some folks can perceive that sort of signature as being a bit shouty. And overall, I think that the DK3001BD is a very finely balanced IEM, and it's truly a rarity in 2024. It's not that common. Hopefully we see more of this type of tuning in 2025 where things are a bit more flat, a bit more neutral, but hopefully people know that because it's flat and neutral, you kind of need technicalities to get away with things. I'm very happy that Dunu decided to do something very different this year and allow us to see that there are alternatives to the usual V-shaped tuning, which is honestly a dime a dozen now. But yeah, with that said, these are my favorites from this year. What are some of your favorite Iems in 2024? If you have some that you really want the world to know, please leave them in the comment section down below because it will help people discover new Iems. And one last announcement, I'm headed to Mumbai and New York City in February. So if you guys are in these cities, in Mumbai I'll be joining Headphone Connect, and in New York City I'll be going to Can Jam. If you guys see me there, do drop by and say hi. It'll be very fun to catch up. With that said, if you like the channel, please kindly drop a like and subscribe. It will help me out immensely and I always appreciate it. That's it. I hope to see you guys soon.